Done. Brilliant.
Man. How's things anyway?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So, anyone who's listening, this is episode 30 of the Irish Iron Podcast. I am happy to have Steven Hartzenburg, the Brown Panda, on the special episode for the Olympia preview. I've kind of seen you around the scene, man. I've seen you like from, like I know you'd be friends with Alan Cushion. I know you trained in the Coliseum. And then I saw a few of the guys you were coaching, and I was just like, okay, this guy's a fan, and he competes. Like, there's not too many competitors who actually follow the sport as much as I would anyway. So it's nice to meet somebody who has the same passion. You know?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, yeah. I've my first, I suppose, fan taste of bodybuilding was as far back as 1992. My dad, he is a professional singer. He's one of the best cabaret artists in this country, has been for a very long time. And he used to go to Northern Ireland to work up there to sing. But when he was on the way back, he used to buy the old Flex mags with Sean Ray, Dorian, Flex, Wheeler, Levrone, Lee Haney, all those guys. So when I was a kid, I was quite overweight, you know, and I struggled. I really struggled with myself, looking at myself in the mirror and feeling confident. And my dad was into the gym. He was into bodybuilding, and he used to buy these magazines. And I remember the first one he brought home was a picture, was on the front with Sean Ray at Venice Beach, and he was like with this blonde chick. And I remember looking at Sean Ray and thinking, that's the greatest looking human being I've ever seen. Like, you know, I was blown away. I thought I could never, because obviously we'd watched all the Rambo films and the Rockies and Arnie and stuff like that, but Sean Ray was just like, wow, you know what I'm saying? He was just like a different. I didn't believe a person could look so perfect, you know, musculature wise. He was phenomenal, and he wasn't a big guy, so he wasn't somebody that, like, you know, looked too over the top big. Like Dorian came in at 93, 94, and everybody was like, that's too big, you know. So I was reading those mags back when I was 10 years of age. And funny enough, my dad used to buy the big triple, double XL, old school bodybuilding, big baggy pants, you know, camo ones and stuff like that. And because I was a big kid, they were the only ones that I felt comfortable enough to wear. So I was like going around in double XL baggy, like bodybuilding pants, and all my mates would be like wearing Nike and Adidas, and I'd be wearing these big baggy bodybuilding pants, stuff like that, you know. So kind of the interest kind of started there, and then I moved to South Africa when I was 16. Played rugby there at a very high level, and I started to. My parents built a gym in the garage. We had a big house, and they put in like a multi-unit gym, and dumbbells and a bench, and had pull downs and leg extensions. And I remember thinking, you know, I need to be big. South Africans are big, man. They're big guys. So I was like, okay, I need
units, man. Like they're natural units, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I like, you know, like the genetic thing with the Afrikaans guys is that, like, when they're from the age of 12, they go to like a boarding school. You know, they play rugby. They eat a lot of meat. They eat a lot of oats. They eat a lot of cream of rice and whatever. And they don't eat much else other than those kind of, you know, stalemates. And they just play rugby and they lift weights. And I was like, I'm missing something here. So I started lifting weights, and it got me into a provincial side. And I actually came back here to play rugby for Munster in their academy. And I was with Munster in the academy for a short spell because they went bankrupt. And I ended up coming back to Dublin. My parents were still living in South Africa at the time. And I kind of fell away from rugby because I sort of got too out of condition, in the sense of, not in a physical aspect. The game just went a little bit different. It's, you know, there was guys playing fullback, inside centre, like 6'2". Yeah. You know, the game changed in that way, and I just didn't kind of keep up with that change, you know. So I started getting injuries that were like, you know, keeping me out of my actual work, you know. So I decided that I needed to stop this. And funny enough, it was a trip to Ibiza for 6 months that made me get back into bodybuilding, believe it or not. There was guys, I lived above this gym, and it's funny, it was like Globo Gym, you know, like in dodgeball. You had like a friggin' hand scanner and stuff like that to get into this gym. And all the guys that used to train there were all the security guys, okay? And they were either Welsh or English, but they were all juicing, and they were all like in the most incredible shape, especially the Welsh guys. They were like incredible. And I was like looking at these dudes going, no, now it's time. You know, now I got to get back into this bodybuilding thing, and I got to try and figure this whole thing out. So when I came back from Ibiza, I moved to Scotland, and I started working as a chef. And that was it, man. I just joined this little kind of a run-of-the-mill, like a old dungeon gym. Very little machines, but just those heavy steel plates. The dumbbells were like, if it was broken, they welded it back together. So like, you know, the 40s were really 43s and stuff like that. You know, you weren't allowed to go and use any like isolation exercises until you could, like, you know, pull weight from the floor, that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And they're dime a dozen, those gyms. They're not anymore. Like, I mean, this is pre-Instagram, pre-Facebook, you know, all the kind of 2006, kind of 2007. And it kind of instilled in me a discipline that I could kind of carry over to the outside of bodybuilding. You know, I ended up going and doing my master's in sports physiology. I ended up doing an HND in exercise and health and fitness. And that was because of the discipline of eating 6 meals a day and training and not missing a beat. You know what I mean? And then I got into competitive bodybuilding in 2009. I did the very first classic division. When the classic division started off, that was back in 2009. I did the very first classic division. I weighed 76 kilos on stage. Can you believe that shit? I weighed 76 kilos. Yeah. I weigh 112 this morning, and I was at 76 kilos on stage, yo, like all natty and stuff. Like, it obviously didn't touch any. I'd been training like 3 years. So guy in the gym was like, you know, you're in great shape. You should do the show. And it was like 24 guys on stage or something. And I remember just jostling for position, and I came forward. And I remember I got the first call out, and I got banged first center in the first call out. Then I was banging the center for the second call out with the other top guys. And then they put me to the back. And I remember the guy who actually won the show, he came up to me backstage and he said, congratulations, man, you've won. And I said, what do you mean? We're just still standing here waiting for the results. And he said, no, listen, I've won this show before. And if they only look at you once like that in the first call out, they think you're the best. You know, that's how it works. So that's how, you know, you're good. And I remember sitting at the back, and I was like jumping up and down going, oh my God, I won. And all these guys were juicing too. So they were much bigger than me. And I was like, but I was conditioned. I was so conditioned. I looked like I had dieted for about a year. I was inside out peeled. And then they called the top three, and they didn't call me. And I was devastated. But it just kind of, that was it, man. I didn't need to come first, you know, to kind of get that bug. I was like, this is it for me. You know, I got to keep doing this now and see where I can go from this. So, believe it or not, I've done classic shows. I've done Mens Physique. I've done under 80 bodybuilding, and then the last shows I did was under 90 bodybuilding. So now, next time around, it's definitely going to be over 90s, 100%. Maybe, you know, it depends. I mean, I had prepped this year. You've probably seen all my pictures and videos I put up on Instagram. I had planned on doing the shows this year twice. Obviously they got cancelled, and yeah, it was a bit of a bummer because, you know, you put so much money, effort, time, everything, and I just had a baby. Me and my missus just had a baby in April, so my son was like literally just born, and I'm like, okay, I'm going into prep now. You know what I mean? And my missus is like, okay, do what you have to do, because I know if you don't do it, you're just going to be annoyed all the time. So I just did it, and then obviously they cancelled the shows again, and you know, I was going to do this year 2021 coming up in spring, but I just have this feeling, man, it's going to get pulled again, you know, and we're just not going to get the shows up and running probably till October of next year. And I just didn't want to put all my eggs in that basket again and commit, and then it happens that 4, 5, 6 weeks out, we're either in a lockdown where the gyms are closed for another 6 weeks, and I got to train out the back again in the dirt, in the rain, in the mud, with very little weight. you know, and I don't feel like you should really put yourself in a position to compete unless you can absolutely be at your best. So I just said, no, it's not the right time. So I picked October 2022 to do the overs. That's going to be my big show, you know. So for me anyway, you know, hopefully McGee will be back by then. Me and Connor have spoke. I've gave him my you know, my sincere, I'm not going to say condolences, but, you know, well wishes, you know, to the guy, because I see Connor as like the flagship of what Irish bodybuilding can be for the supers. You know, like we don't have any big Goliaths walking around really. Connor's one of those guys that can epitomize that kind of class, you know. I certainly want to be one of those guys, but it takes a lot of metal to get there, you know, to be big.
How tall are you, man? Like how tall are you?
I'm 5'9".
Okay, yeah.
I'm 5'9". You know, the thing about me, Owen, is I have a lot of space to fill out.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not going to happen overnight, regardless of how heavy I train, how hard my diet is, how much I eat. Like, you know, it's sometimes those things just happen. And they happen so smoothly that it's like, wow, how did that, you know, everything rolled and ticked so well. And then there's times when you plan all these things and then anything can happen. And then it's not working, your body's not working properly, you're not feeling it, you get injured too easily, you're back to the drawing board again. So I'm just like, okay, I'm going to push for a 16-week period and kind of have an 8-week sort of easy phase, you know, a little bit more higher rep stuff, give my joints a break, because I'm 36 now in January. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't recover like I used to, you know. Like I did a leg day yesterday, and I was doing Dorian Yates style hack squats, you know, the one where the weight's right behind your backside.
Yeah.
And I did 4 plates. I did 4 plates aside on that bad boy, and that is a tough hack squat. You know, there's no going.
No, it's
You can't
end,
like
man.
go missing.
Like, people don't realize
No,
when you're on a hack, like if you really want to challenge yourself, don't pick a hack which is like this. Pick a hack which is like that. That's what Dorian was on. That kind of 45.
Like 1 o'clock. Yeah, 1 o'clock position. Yeah, because you're right. Because actually last week I used the one that's more of a kind of a between 2 and 3 o'clock position.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, first leg workout back in whatever 6 weeks, and I was able to hack squat 7 plates aside because the line is good.
Yeah.
But then you go on the Dorian style one, and you hit 3 plates aside, and you're like, holy fuck, like what is going on? You know what I mean? The angle completely changes the dynamics. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's difficult, man. But I'm just glad, man. I'm training now in Southside. And it's an incredible gym. What they've done to the place is just unbelievable. They've completely put in all these amazing unilateral press machines and pull machines for back and stuff, and their leg equipment is second to none. And, you know, I mean, for me, the mecca of Irish bodybuilding gyms is Westside. I think Westside's an incredible gym. I've got to give props to the guys there, especially what they've done in the last lockdown. But I'm 15 minutes away from Southside, so in order for me to become a better bodybuilder, I felt I needed to go to a gym that would give me the best of what I need. You know what I mean? And Southside's just one of those gyms that can offer you everything to put together, you know, a physique that's worthy of winning a national title, or at least being up there. You know what I mean? With that kind of a caliber of physique. So I'm happy I joined, because the other gyms I was in, they were good, and Coliseum was good and stuff. And it's not too far either for me to go to. It's just I know too many people there. And, you know, when you know too many people in the gym, the workout tends to go from you being there for like a planned hour and 15, 20 minutes to 2 hours, because you're talking to people are asking you how you are, that kind of thing. And it just sort of rolls over to a time. And when you've got a little boy like I have, you got to prioritize those times that you're allowed to go train. You know what I'm saying? So, So anyway, yeah, so that's me at the moment. So I'm happy. How's your McDonald's going for you at the moment? I see you're milling 3 or 4 of them a week.
So it's like what I tend to do, man. I'd be very much a guy who...
Can't hear you, man.
So, so what I would do, I pretty much eat a certain way. It would obviously be, I say, 5 clean meals a day, and then I'd have like 1 cheat. And it would tend to be something along those lines. But, you know, in the off season, I'd be very much a guy, like, if I want to swap stuff in, I'll swap stuff in. because I know how to put on
Yeah.
muscle. It's just prep that kind of gets me, you know. But I've found the
Yeah.
gym, like yourself. I've moved to a different gym, and it's 10 minutes from me, and it's a bodybuilding gym. So I'm kind of like, you know what? Like I'll have John Carroll there, who's actually training out of there. And he said he'll just look if I need a second eye, he'll just look at me, you know. So it's just
Yeah.
I'm not in a bad
Yeah.
place to
Is
do it.
that the one in Bray?
Yeah, it's sick. It's basically a public. It's open to the public, but it's not quite. It hasn't been announced yet. So it's like you can come in and you can
Okay.
train and everything, but it'll be open publicly
Yeah.
in September, in June. But my end goal is I want to end up coaching out of there, and you know, just develop
Yeah.
that. That'll be my home eventually. So we'll see what happens, man. But you know, like Southside is a good gym. I love going. I've been there a few times. I used to train with Christian out there, and it was always good. Like you can
Yeah.
change the angle of that hack. That's the thing. You can make that hack really difficult for yourself.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. Incredible. It's incredible. When they ease up on the restrictions there, because they're not allowing any day guest passes because of COVID, we should train legs out there.
oh, for sure, absolutely, man. Like I'd always go out to different gyms to train legs or back. Like you can do all.
It's got to be legs though.
Huh?
It's got to be legs.
Yes.
It's got to be legs.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't. Yeah. Yeah. If you're going to make the effort to go train somewhere, it's got to be legs. You know what I'm saying?
Well, look, what we'll do now, anyway, man. We'll get into the Olympia talk. So, what you know the way you made my you allowed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what we'll do, if you can go into my profile thing again, the way you did my allowed me to record,
yeah.
It'll allow me to share the screen. So if you just click that, and I can share the screen and put up some pictures of the guys, you know.
Yeah, sure. Do I just go back on this, or how do I do it?
I think, however it worked out. Yeah.
One sec.
There we go.
Let me see. Ooh. How do I figure this out?
So yeah, when you click more on the profile, it should come up and say allow screen sharing or share screen or whatever, and that'll allow me to do it.
Oh yeah, participants. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I got it. Don't allow to record, and then where's the screen share?
I think it's like share screen. It's like, you just have a look. What does it say? Like, if it doesn't say, we can just go through. We can just talk.
Yeah, it just says make host, stop video, rename, don't allow to record, put in waiting room.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We'll move on.
Maybe it's me.
I'd say it's because it's a Kindle, you know?
Yeah.
That's grand, man. So look,
yeah, no, that's all good, man.
That's all good. So we'll talk about it. We'll just talk about it. I have the list anyway. So, like, obviously,
I have the list in front of me.
Perfect. So your missus obviously wanted to talk about and she's right as well. I was going to talk about women's physique anyway, and stuff and figure, because they are quite intense. But obviously with the men's, like, I assume we'll do open, we'll do 2-on-2 and classic, and I suppose the top guys of the men's physique, but I wouldn't really know them as much. So, like, obviously with the list, I mean, like, it just came out today that Rowley is pulled out, maybe, or what? Like, that's nuts. Like, I had him in the top.
Yeah. So well, let's just start with the open, because we were just touching on Rowley there. Okay, so first of all, what I heard from Ron Harris there on MD Muscle just before I came on here was that he's having an issue with his visa because he was in Iraq last year, and something about his trip to Iraq has kind of messed up his visa to get into America. I don't know how that works, but nonetheless, he's in Turkey looking for a gym to train out of right now. I know his coach that trains Ashkenani, he's in Florida already, Ahmed Askar, and Rolly's not there.
Yeah.
Also, word on the street is that COVID, or that Rolly's actually been diagnosed with COVID as well. So I don't know, man. He looked a little beat up around the eyes to me in some of the recent pictures I saw, and I actually thought he looked a bit sickly. Now, I don't know if that's a legit, he has COVID. I think he actually had COVID at some stage this year also.
Yeah.
But word on the street is he is either struggling to get the visa, he has COVID and can't get in, or it's both. So there's a possibility that he might not be there. Yeah. And as well, Hadi Chupin hasn't left Iran yet. So that is looking ever more like he might not make it in if he's not already here. Because, I mean, it's Sunday now. The press conference is Thursday. I would have imagined he would have been in Hani Ramba's house probably by this weekend. I would have imagined it would have been a week out. So, look, that's a difficult one to call, because that could end up being a case where it's just literally someone just signing paperwork and he gets the go-ahead like he did last year, and boom, he's here. But I think what we should do is we'll tackle the top six.
Yeah.
And put it into consideration that Rolly and Hardy are going to be there. If we start with the cream of the crop, with Phil obviously coming back, me personally, I don't see anybody beating Phil, unless, you see, here's the thing, like, there's so many of these guys that have little trinkets that when they come out, the first thing we're going to be looking at is that issue. Like, the issue with Rami, is he in condition? The issue with Rolly, is his legs up and is he in condition? The issue with Bonac, is his legs back? You know, the issue with Hardy, is his shoulders not looking a bit funky? You know, everybody's kind of got something with them. And Brandon's is his legs, and has been for 2.5 years. He has the most prettiest look when he does the standard poses from the front. And the problem with Phil standing next to a guy like that is it's going to bring it back straight back to 2018, where Phil was exposed by a perfect midsection from Rogan. You know, if Phil had a good midsection, there was no way he was beating Phil Heath. Phil would have beat Sean, because it wasn't a landslide victory like everybody makes it out to be. There was, I think, 2 points or something in the difference there. So it's not like Phil was absolutely massacred. He was massacred purely on front poses because his stomach was off. Now, he's had all of that, that injury fixed. He's a perfectionist, man. I can't see Phil coming back to the game looking any way, shape, or form like the old Phil in 2018 did with that stomach. And if Phil brings anything back like a stomach that he looked like in 2011 or 2013, and he looks big. I mean, I actually have never seen Phil look as deathly faced as he does right now. The guy means business, because he knows that he can get so dug out that he will beat everybody with the exception of maybe Hardy Chupin on condition. He will get so dug out that he will make it lights out from that point alone. And then the fact with Phil is that he can get so gnarly dug out, but he doesn't lose any size. You know, a lot of guys get really peeled, but then they just don't have any pop. Phil looks even bubblier when he's as dug out as he can be. You know what I mean? So,
but the problem with Phil is if he comes in really, really full, the midsection is going to be a bit blown out. So he can sacrifice that. He doesn't have to come in mega full. He can be peeled and flat and still look full anyway, you know. So he'd be fine. And against Brandon, you know, he's not a mass monster. Brandon's like, he's a shape guy. Brandon is a shape and structure guy. If Phil loses, it won't be because he was out of shape. It'll be because he couldn't hide the stomach. That's it. That's what's going to lose the show.
The thing about it is, if we kind of move along to Brandon, like I said, like Brandon for me last year had it easy. And what I mean by that is he didn't have to defeat any reigning Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
He came there with 2 back-to-back Mr. Olympias out of that lineup. So no Sean Roden, no Heath. He didn't even have Big Ramy to contend with. You know, he had an off Rolly Winkler. He had a downsized in the leg William Bonac. So, you know, the only person, in my opinion, who pushed Brandon last year and who didn't get his dues was Hadi Chupin. And that's more of a political thing, I think, than anything else, because the guy doesn't speak a word of English. It's his very first Olympia. He comes straight in, and off the bat, they're like, okay, we can give him third.
Yeah.
You know, and in past tense, anybody who's come in off the bat and gone third in their first Olympic to win the O or thereabouts. You know, Phil did it in 2008. Put him in second to Lee Haney and then came back the following year to win it. I mean, putting him third in the first time round is a massive, massive statement from them. And if he turns up, you got to look at it from who can give Phil the run for his money in the conditioning aspect. And when you go back to Brandon, where his weak points are always going to be his legs. And this is what I don't get, like, is that he's been in oxygen for over 2 years now. We've all said every year that the legs need to be brought up, the legs need to be brought up. And, you know, fair play to the guy. He's winning Arnold Classics. He's winning Olympias with legs that just aren't as, I'm not going to say size-wise they're not up to par, but the separation is just not there, you know. And then as well, he has, like, you know, like a kind of an Akeem Williams style textured skin that it just doesn't look as crisp as what Phil's does. So it makes it difficult to see whether the detail is there, you know what I'm saying? And it's probably just a case of fine-tuning. You know, if he comes in with legs that are separated, he could absolutely give Phil a run for his money. When he turns around from the back, however, he's not going to match Phil from the calves up. Like, it's just not going to happen. You know, and then as well as that, like Phil's back pose, when he hits a back double bicep, it's from his head, from his neck, all the way down to below his calves. There is detail there that's never seen before, you know? So Brandon he's hungry to prove a point, but I think he also knows that if he needs to beat Phil, he needs to beat Phil when Phil's off. Because I think if Phil comes in, he can't be touched. Yeah. You know, he can't be touched.
And then the dark horse, I'm going to say third place. I think it'll be Ramy. I'd say Ramy will be third. If he comes in on, he'll be top 3 anyway if he comes in on. If he comes in off, they'll penalise him, I'd say.
Yeah.
Outside the top 6 if he comes in off. Well, but
I'm probably spot. Yeah, I'm going to upset a lot of people, and they're probably going to think I'm crazy. But I don't think Brandon's going to come second. I think Brandon's going to come third.
Yeah.
And that's if Hadi Chupin turns up. Now, the reason why I say that is because I kind of look at Brandon's win last year as like Dexter's win in 2008. You know, he beat an off Jay, and he was peeled out of his mind, Dexter, and he was incredible. And he didn't come back the next year and improve. Jay came back unbelievable. Now, Phil is of the same caliber like Jay. You know, he brings the same professionalism, the same ability in terms of work ethic. He trains with Hani Rambod, and nutritionist with Hani Rambod, same thing. And Hani knows how to get these guys, you know, to be the best version of themselves once a year. They're never off. You know, like Jay only started to turn when he went back to Hani. He was incredible. He rolled back the years. And the same goes with Hadi Chupin. You know, it's not coincidence that the 2 most peeled guys in the show are being coached by Hani Rambod. So he's obviously doing something right.
Yeah.
So when you turn around from the back and do and see who's the most dug out, if they do a comparison between Hadi and Phil, that's a shot that nobody's ever seen before. And it's also a contender that Phil's never had to contend with. So he doesn't know what he's up against in that respect. You know what I'm saying? So that's going to be more, I think, Phil's nemesis, I think, is personally going to be Hadi, because he's so thick, he is so dense, and he's so separated everywhere. Yeah, he doesn't have a pretty shape and stuff, like, but Phil doesn't really have a pretty shape either, you know, but he still won 7 Olympias. So, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna say Brandon is going to be, I'm saying third. I know that's probably going to be wrong, but that's just how I feel, because of where last year I felt he had an easy ride to get to the O. to win the Olympia. I think if Phil or Sean had been there, he wouldn't have been Miss Olympia. You know what I mean? And then if you bring down to the for fourth position, you know, you're looking. I don't really see anybody beating Bonac purely because he is so consistent in his placings and in his condition the last couple of years. I mean, he did win the Arnold this year. You know, he has slightly had downsized legs since he kind of left Neil Hill. I don't know whether that was just because he was doing too much by himself, you know, to kind of get in shape, whereas Neil might have pulled it back maybe a little bit more on the cardio or the extreme dieting or whatever it was. You know, you would have thought that he'd have the formula locked down, but his legs did appear to be a little bit downsized in some of the shows of late. So if he brings his legs back up, he again, like Hardy, has that sort of that density and that thickness, and he does bring great condition as well that can match Phil. But we've seen him and Phil in comparisons before, and Phil has always got the better of him. So I don't think he's bringing anything different to the table other than just his normal self. And if it's his normal self that he brings, his normal self is to be absolutely built in order for him to be touching around that 3-4 mark, maybe even 2. I think last year 2 was a gift for him because, again, the talent wasn't there. This year's, it's a different lineup. You know what I mean? It's a different lineup. And then when you're looking at 5th and 6th, you've got to be looking, obviously, at Big Ramy and Rowley.
Yeah, I mean,
the thing with Ramy is...
I was thinking Ramy can leapfrog from, like, 6th all the way up to 2nd, depending on what kind of shape he's in. Like, do I think, like, he's never been in... It'll be interesting, man, because he's training with Dennis James now, and Chad Nichols is doing his diet. So it's like he's being fed, like drip fed by a fucking spoon at this point. Like, how easy does he have to have it to nail it down? It's like everything's gone right for the guy, and he just can't seem to do it. But it's interesting because did you watch that interview he had with Chad Nichols had with Nick Gilligan? Did you?
No, I didn't see that one. No.
No, it was Savage, man. And what happened was Chad was saying he was backstage with him at the Arnold, and when Ramy pumps up, he pumps up his legs. He loses all the cuts in his legs. Like, he gets really full, really fast, just from training with a little bit of weight. So it's like maybe it was something simple like that. He's just a freak. It's like you just don't know what to do with a guy like that. But I'd love to see him win, man. I'd love to see him win.
Yeah, you know, he's a good guy. There's no denying he's not a good human being. He appears to be. Everybody that meets the guy says he's a top bloke and he's one of the nicest people that, you know, in bodybuilding. I think he's become his own worst enemy over the last 7-8 years because he's gone through literally every single top guru in the world. And for me, you lose the respect of your professionals or your peers when you decide to jump ship so many times, you know? 2017, when he came second to Phil, he had a look on the Saturday night that was untouchable. I don't know if you remember, he came out flat on the Friday, and he was with, I think, Aceto at the time.
Yeah. And
he came out on the Saturday, and it was like, okay, now this is the Ramy that everyone has been waiting to see. But, of course, the damage was already done by then. You know, like, he couldn't make up in the prejudging in the points because he wasn't at his sharpest, the prejudging. But God damn it, he made up for it on the Saturday. And I think then that was the year he went on to win the Arnold Europe. And his look at the Arnold Europe there when he beat Dexter was...
No, he didn't beat Dexter.
I mean, he was peeled.
He came second.
Was it? He beat Dexter? He came second?
Yeah.
Was that the same year, was it?
I think it was like...
Yes, you're right, actually. He hit.
But he looked savage, man. He looked really, really good. That was his best look. Yeah. And the thing as well is, like, his tan was perfect, and he popped, but he had striations across everywhere, and his legs didn't look, like, odd.
I think the biggest problem with Ramy is his legs are so overpowering and they look so funky that people are like the judges in that front line are going, what is up with this dude's legs? I mean, why would you even train legs if you had legs that big? You know, focus on literally the most isolated of stuff. Forget squats, forget hack squats. You don't need any more quad sweep. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean? But I would love to see Ramy come in on a special invite here and be in the mix for that top two. My only concern about Ramy is that he is so nervous with himself all the time because of the hype train that I think it really messes with his body. You know, like you can see Phil is the professional, like he's the consummate professional. He doesn't let anything get in his way. You know what I'm saying? Like Dave Palumbo calls him a hunter, you know, that will just go after everybody. And that's exactly what he is. He is just somebody who just switches off, doesn't listen to the hype, doesn't listen to the bullshit, comes in and year after year after year delivers a peaked physique. Yeah. And then you're looking at Ramy, and everybody since the New York Pro in 2013 has been like, oh, this guy, he's got it all. He's the next dude. He's this, he's that. And if you think about it, you as a human being, if you actually had to fulfill that obligation every single year, and mind you, for a time he moved up one space all the way until 2017, and then I think 2018 he dropped back down the pecking order, but he moved up a space, and everybody thought, okay, now next year he's gone one space, now next year, you know. But then he had a formula I felt with Chris that worked, and then he jumped ship again. You know what I'm saying? And now it's like it's come full circle because he's gone back to Dennis for Dennis to baby him. And then he's gone with the guy who got Coleman in shape, you know, at 300 pounds, Chad Nichols. And everybody thinks Chad's the only man who can get a 285, 290 pound Ramy in shape, which I can believe that because it must be very hard to peak a guy that size. But I would like to see Ramy live in America from 20 weeks out. You know, I would like to see him literally sit in Dennis James' house for 20 weeks and let Dennis James be his mentor, train him, and watch him every single minute of the day. And then, and only then, I think we would see the best version of Ramy. But up until that point, there's still doubt over what he's actually doing when he's not with the people, you know, like Dennis James and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's gonna, because let's think about it realistically. How many opportunities are they going to give this guy? You know, to go to the Olympia and to put it up and to prove that he is like an Olympia winning caliber physique. We all know he is, obviously, but how many times are they going to give him the, like now it's a special invite, you know, he has to go out now and do it by himself. You know, he has to go out and take it by the scruff of the neck and literally just do it for himself now. You know, and forget everybody else, because it's not like this guy's new. He's a veteran now at this stage. You know what I mean? This is his 8th Olympia or some shit like that. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and then obviously with situation with Rowley now, I mean, Rowley,
I think 2018. Man. I mean, he's 40 years old or something now. I think he's at. Rowley's a weird one though. It's like he seems to either bring something that's like you can't stop looking at it, or you know, like. He shits the bed a little bit, like he just comes in a bit too watery. But I mean, he's so good. Even when he's off, he's still top 6. Like that's how good he is. So
like I think with Rowley, it's the same like Ramy. It's kind of the case whereby they're kind of looking at the situation, going, well, how many opportunities can we give him to get it right? Yeah. You know, like they gave him the 3rd spot, and everybody thought after that, arguably he could have gone on and done better things, and then he won the Arnold in Australia, and everybody thought, no, this is the physique that could win an Olympia. And again, for a guy who only competes once a year, then he misses the mark a lot. And you know, you see the oxygen, you know, magic mirror pictures, and we all think to ourselves, oh my God, like look at this guy, is an absolute freak. If he brings that to the stage, nobody's touching that. Like, I mean, his crab most muscular. It blows everybody's most muscular out of the water. And as Chris Aceto says, he just has so many freaky shots that he can stand next to anybody and beat them on freakter alone. But he has had a couple of issues in the last 2 years where his legs have been considerably down or just not separated. and when they're not separated, they just look smaller. And he just kind of, he seems a little bit lackluster to me, is my problem with Rolly. He never seems like he's really wants it. Do you know what I'm kind of saying? He doesn't ever seem like he's really hungry. Like he doesn't seem like he has the tenacity in him that it's like, I want to win the Olympia no matter what. Every time I hear from him, it's always, yeah, I'm going to the Olympia. And it's like his thing to go to the Olympia. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to the Olympia to kick everyone's ass. Oh, I'm going to the Olympia and it's great to meet the fans and, all kind of shit. Like, you know what I mean? But like, I just want to see more bite in him. You know what I mean? And then I think if you see him being a bit more tenacious, it might show in his physique. You know what I mean?
Who do you have then in spots? Let's say that's 5 and 6. So I suppose like 7 to 10, I think it could flip flop from anywhere. Like I think, honestly, I have Hunter in there at 7. I mean that would be my guess. Hunter Labrada.
Yeah.
And then in Valliere.
I actually, to be honest with you, I have Hunter Labrada in 6th and I have Rolly 7th.
Okay.
That's my personal, the reason why I have Hunter in is because he has some of the most amazing shots that can light any, and we have only seen him once at Tampa, but my God, his front double bicep is like, it's like Flex Lewis with 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And then it's pretty to look at. And he has the arms to match Phil and Rowley and Brandon. And he has the leg sweep and the detail to match like a Hardy Chupin. He has a pretty nice, midsection. His side chest is impeccable. Like, I mean, he's got the calves, he's got the hamstring drop, he's got everything. You know what I mean? And like, the thing about Labrada as well is his father was probably the most, peak perfect guy when it came to stage presence posing. So he's not like he's going to let his son go on the Olympia stage for his debut and not be like absolutely impeccable when it comes to presentation. And when you to Tampa, his tan was amazing. It just, he is able to just do all the small things so well, and he has such a good team around him that I cannot see him placing any less than 6th, to be honest with you. I have him 6th and I have Rowley 7th. And I have Dexter in 8th. Now, a lot of people, again, are going to be like, Dexter, he can jump in, when he's in condition, he can beat anybody. Yeah, he can. But his legs will be down, they have in years. He's always going to bring the upper body. He's always going to bring legs in condition. And he's off in the conditioning department. He could probably high it. With that bed, you know what I mean? If you stand him next to a prettier, bigger, fresher physique like Hunter Labrada's, I think it's kind of out with the old, in with the new type of thing. You know what I mean? Politics-wise, they'll probably put him in top 6 just because it's his last O, and they don't want it to finish outside of placing. And people might laugh at that and say that's not how they operate. Look, things have happened in the past that you would have to raise your eyebrow about, to be honest with you. But it may very well be a case that they just decide to put him in at 6th just purely on the basis of, kudos to you. You've been, the most winningest body pro of all time. This is your 30th show, or he's had 20 points. It's like bow out on a high. You know what I mean? And I think it's to be bowing out on a high for Dexter, do you know what I mean? But I personally have him in 8th. And then 9 and 10, I definitely see that battle between Akeem Williams and Ian Valliere. I think Akeem came 9th last year. I would put him 9th again this year. I would put him ahead of Ian just because he is a freak.
Yeah.
And because the Olympia,
his conditions can get better and better.
So. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the thing about it is that when he worked with Dave Palumbo, I just felt Dave tried to maybe push the boat too much on having him too full blown. And a guy that is that big Like, I mean, the guy back squats 8-9 plates. You know what I mean? Like, his legs are from another planet, like, in terms of density, you know? So a guy who can squat 8 or 9 plates like it's nothing without any wraps and stuff like that, he's not losing any tissue. You know what I mean? And he's still going to look full and hard regardless. So why fill him up, you know, too much? And he has had that problem in the past. Now, Ozzy, his new coach, that's Kai Green's old coach, he has changed the formula to the extent like that he now doesn't have him, you know, hitting these massive weights anymore because he has the size. It's all about refinement. And show after show after show, you're starting to see a more refined physique with Akeem Williams. You're starting to see more separation. His back is still a problem, but I just think that's a genetic thing, to be honest with you. A lot of people have said that about Akeem up close. He is peeled. His skin, just like Brandon's was for a long period of time, it just tends to hold that little bit more thickness or something in places. But of course, you put more muscle under that area, it's going to, like, you know, make that even sharper. And you've seen with Brandon, since he went to Oxygen and blew up, that whole concept of him having, like, as you say, seal skin, that disappeared because now the guy comes in straight and grainy. So it just goes to show that the maturity of the muscle needs to be there, and more importantly, the formula to get it right, it just takes time, you know. And I think Ozzy has it finally figured out for Akeem, and he's dangerous, man. Like, Akeem, if he comes in absolutely shredded, he can move some big names out too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but I have Valliere 10th. I just think that Ian, it's not like I don't like his physique. I think he has a great physique. I just think that sometimes he's one of those guys that tends to let things get the better of him, and he misses his peak. And he's missed his peak a few times. And although Patrick Tuor is obviously, like, incredible when it comes to attention to detail, he has been known in the past with Ian to miss the mark a few times. So, you know, missing the mark with Ian seems to be a catastrophic event, and then he just doesn't seem to come back from that on the day. So I would say purely on where he is right now, he looks incredible. I wouldn't change a thing. He looks, you know, he's striated up and down. If they can keep him like that without... See, the problem is, man, it's just, you know as well as I do, like, these guys are so big that the smallest change with these guys can make a massive difference. A massive difference. And 6 days out from the show, people's nerves start getting the better of them, and they start wanting to play a different game than maybe they thought they wanted to do originally. You know what I mean? And that's where all the fuck-ups start happening, because you look great 6 days out or a week out, and then all of a sudden it's not coming together anymore. And then, you know, you wouldn't expect it from the pros, but they're just the same as us. You know what I mean? Where they make decisions that maybe are uncalled for. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, anyway, that's my top 10. If I was to go through the rest of the list quickly, just to kind of say where the other guys would fall.
I suppose, man, it would be a case of, like, there's a few dark horses in there. I mean, like, you could have somebody like Antoine who could sneak up into the top 10, like, because he's going to be peeled and he's gained some tissue. And then, of course, you have like Lucas Osladil, you have Regan, you have Justin Rodriguez, but, you know, it's but the top 10, I don't think the large majority of people are going to be pushed out. I think we've kind of picked it. It'll rotate, but I don't think it'll move much, you know?
No. Like, the only guy, like, who I see kind of being sort of like out of that last sort of 5-6 spots from 11 through to 16, the guy who never gets enough credit but who is dangerous is Lucas Osladil. For the simple reason that the guy never misses his peak. Even though he might not have the best looking physique, he came 8th last year in the Olympia. You know, he pushed James Hollingshead at the Europa, and he came 2nd. And he has not got a pretty physique, let's face it. It's not the best to look at. But my God, the guy comes in with, like, cross-striated glutes. He is dug out from the back. He has a back double that's dug out, like, and he exposes people because he's just in incredible condition. So I have him 11th, and then I have Justin Rodriguez and Anton Valiant fighting for 12th and 13th. Justin has a very pretty physique. My problem with Justin would be the legs, and I think Anton's legs are they are incredible. And if he can come in looking like Chicago, where he's full blown, then he can make some noise. But if they bring him in like that slightly depleted, flat look that he had before, he just doesn't have anywhere near the same look. You know what I'm saying? It's a different kind of look altogether. Regan has a fantastic physique, but he's done so many shows this year that my concern would be that he's just going to be a little bit over depleted.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? I
think he's tired.
I think
he needs a rest.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, I think the Romania show was a push too far for me. I wouldn't have done the Romanian show if I was him. I would have left it. I would have shut it down. I would have focused on another show to qualify for the 2021 Olympia, and I would have concentrated on the O, because it is his debut. He wants to do well. He's got a super big following. He's got a lot of fan base that want to see him do well. He's marketable, you know. Me personally, I wouldn't have done the Romania show. I would have definitely dug down. And then you're going down lastly then to the likes of Juan Morel and the Lee Sun-Chul. Juan, I mean, I don't know what the hell's happened to Juan the last year. I know like his business has been taken off dramatically. And I know that he's been concentrating on that. He doesn't look the same Juan Morel full-blown to me as he has done in the past. You know, and that, if I don't see a full-blown up-top Juan Morel, I'm wondering how full-blown are the legs going to be. You know what I mean? Because he's always suffered down below. If he's not really popping up top, it's going to make him look for a very stringy physique from him. You know what I'm saying? And then last there, you have Max Charles. Max Charles is a bit of an enigma when it comes to this, because he will be definitely in the top 5 of the most peeled guys on stage. Behind Bill Hardy, this guy will come in absolutely peeled. His upper body is freaky. He has mass on mass. His legs aren't great, but he has got a serious wow factor. My thing with Max is that he just has been shat on the last couple of shows for call-outs. He's not got the call-outs he deserved, all the way from the Arnold all the way up through this year. He has not got anywhere in the placings or the call-outs that I felt he should have got. And him and Milos seem to be banging on about that quite a bit throughout the year, about him not getting the just deserves. Now, if this guy can get a call-out in the second call-out next to some of the other guys, he can surprise a few people. But then his issue tends to be when he turns around to the back. He just doesn't have the separation. He has the density all day, but he just doesn't have the separation. You know what I mean? It really depends on how Steve Weinberger sees that one. I personally see him in the third to last call out, purely because he just hasn't had the look of it this year. But an on-form and in-form Max can...
I was going to agree with you there. I just think his legs are just not there for what the Olympia needs. I mean, you have to have a good pair of legs for the Olympia. Like, condition alone isn't going to help you place. But before we move forward, man, if you can turn off your video and turn it back on, it's just not coming through.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, no bother. Yeah, that's perfect. Then we'll just turn it back on. Should be great. That's bang on.
All better?
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, so let's do some 2-1-2.
Perfect. So I think Kamal's gonna win it. I don't think he's. If anything, he's improving. It's like I saw a video and it was on Flex's channel and he was training back, and I was kind of just like, what? Like, how is he growing? You know, he's 49 years old and he's growing. Yeah, stupid. And he's becoming peeled.
He's 50 next week.
Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's
I seen Kamal guest pose at the Two Bros events 2 years ago when Kamal won the Arnold Classic. And then he actually sat behind me in the crowd, and then me and him and the missus had a good chat, and I was talking to him. Me and him were critiquing the classes as we went along, so I actually was getting to know this guy, like to talk to him and stuff during the show. Very nice guy. And it was, the story at the time was how he had been trying to get a pro card for years and blah 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 blah, and it was a great success story. I think last year he was extremely gifted in the sense that he came in peeled alone, and that was it. And I think he won that 212 class based on the fact that he was just the most conditioned guy in the show. He hasn't got the most amazing structure. He hasn't got the most amazing physique. But he absolutely comes in peeled out of his mind. Now, is he going to do it for the second time round? Well, he's been out with Flex Lewis for the past couple of months at the Dragon's Lair. So you can imagine Flex is not going to let him in any way, shape or form come in like anything less than he was last year. My only concern with Kamal will be his size. I know he's put on a bit of weight, like in terms of mass this year. But I think when you stand him next to a full-blown Lunsford, if Lunsford is peeled, or if you even stand him next to a full-blown George Peterson, he's definitely going to be peeled. And then my two dark horses for the 212, who nobody ever gives any props to and got completely overlooked in the last 2 years, is Ole Kriev, or Kriev, I probably massacred that name, the Ukrainian who won the muscle contest Ireland, and Angel Calderon, the guy who won the Europa, who also went and won the British Grand Prix 212. He is dangerous, that guy. He can wipe the floor with anybody in this lineup.
Yeah.
Like he has a front relaxed spread that looks like his pecs were made from like a cartoon character or something. You know what I'm saying? Like he just has density, but his midsection is so immaculate, and he is fucking shredded. Like him and Ole at the Europa were two of the most conditioned athletes you'll ever see in your life. And it made it very difficult, I'd say, from a judge's point of view to see, like, what are we going to, like this, when they say apples and oranges, there literally was not a blemish between the two of these guys. They hit every shot that was just like, holy shit. You know what I mean? And last year, Ole, on his pro, like his Olympia debut, I think he just got shot on because he was new kid on the block who didn't get, like, nobody knew him. You know, and then he came in and he is gnarly conditioned, man. He, like, you know, you've got the likes of Guy Cisternino and Hidatama and David Henry and Ahmed Ashkenani. I think you're going to see a bit of a change of the old guard this year. You know, I think you're going to see.
I agree, man. I think Angel and Ole will probably be up there in. I'm gonna say fifth and sixth, just because they're still kind of new. But I'm going to say
100%.
Which is still savage.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, like, if you were to stand Ole and him either side of Kamal's losing.
Yeah.
Because the two of them are insanely peeled. And you cannot tell me Kamal is going to be more peeled than them, because he would just, I mean, you can't. You know what I'm saying? So, like, they have the structure, they have the size, they're massive for 212, you know? So, it really comes down to call-outs here. You know what I mean? Like, who gets the rub of the green with the call-out? I mean, we all know George Peterson's going to get the call-out in the top 5 because he's George Peterson. But then that's going to move the likes of Guy Cisternino, David Henry, and Hidatama out of that top 5 call-out. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because you have the from last year, you're going to have George Peterson and arguably one of the other guys, you know, and if Keon Pearson had been here, he would have definitely been in the top 5. So, you know, it really comes down to who the judges want to see a fair look at, you know, and if they're not going to be too blind and keep these two guys in the sidelines, if they give them their dues and make them work, we could see really, really like a battle, because nobody's seen Kamal winning the Arnold, and nobody's seen Kamal winning the Olympia.
What about Sean Clarita? Like, where do you have Sean? I mean, I have him anything from first to so.
I think the only problem with Clarita is unfortunately he's just a small guy. Yeah. And I don't mean small guy as in he's small in musculature, because he's very, very dense.
He's just very short.
You know, he's so short. And then if you stand him next to a wide back George Peterson, or a guy like Derek Lunsford, who's got a ridiculous X-frame, he just is too narrow, and that is his problem. Is he's like so thick everywhere, he can still have room to put on more tissue, but just structurally doesn't have, like, you look at when Keon 212 class he won this year, right? He wasn't the most peeled guy, but my God, when he came out and hit those front shots, it was game over, because the structure was just, I mean, it's a structure that God and only God can give you. You know what I mean? So, like, Clarita just doesn't have that in his arsenal. So I only ever see him being a guy getting the third and second spot, while there's people along, like, in that lineup, like a Keon Pearson, who will be back next year, like a George Peterson, who's quite wide, like a Derek Lunsford. While there's guys in that lineup with width, he's going to struggle. You know what I mean? But I mean, fair play to the guy for not knocking himself down, and he keeps putting on more tissue. He keeps getting bigger. He keeps getting harder. He keeps getting better. He believes in himself, and you need to believe in yourself at this level to think that you can do what he's done. I just don't see him ever being a 2-on-2 winner. You know, in the Olympia, that is. You know what I mean? I don't ever see him going on and winning this thing unless some of those guys I named leave the class. You know what I'm saying?
Now, outside of the top four.
But that's kind of how I see the two.
No, you're bang on. Like, I totally agree with you. Like, I mean, I'd have Kamal. I think it'll be interesting, man. I think it'll be the same. I would not be shocked if it's the same top three, just a different order. Like, I mean, if Derek comes in completely.
I'm gonna put. Yeah, I have George Peterson third.
Okay. Yeah. I can see why.
I have George Peterson, yeah, the reason why I have George third is because he just has he has a back that could take most of the open guys out.
Yeah.
You know, and he is absolutely shredded every time he comes on. And the fact of the matter is that when he was in Classic Physique, he was presenting himself as a classic bodybuilder who wasn't a classic bodybuilder. So he was trying to make himself look classic when he didn't have the classic structure. And now that he's seen that and has gone to an actual like bodybuilding class, now he can present himself as a bodybuilder. That's a different ballgame, you know, because now you can not need to be so, like, I suppose, classic in the way you present yourself, but more like, I can get gnarly now. You know what I mean? And now I can really show off my musculars to present the best parts of me. And he's got a back that could rival Kai Green. And when you have a back that's good, you can win any show. You know what I mean? Like, I know the show one wasn't the best lineup, but he still came in and dominated that lineup. So I have him third purely on his width and his size, because he's the odd guy out in the lineup. He's like 5'8", 5'9". That's big for 2-on-2. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, outside the top five, I would have Guy Sister Nino in at 6 to 7. And maybe Ahmad Ashkenani. I don't think he's going to be improved. I think his legs are going to look the same from the front. I mean, like I'm even looking at the list here, and it's like David Henry will probably be after that. Maybe Hide or someone, but like the other guys are kind of like, it's not as dense. I mean, you don't have guys like Jose Raymond. You don't have, like, there's certain guys who would have been challenging for a top spot. If they're not here. Like Flex is gone. You know, I mean, that's a big one, but it's just looking at the list. It's like
100%. I like John Jewett. Like he is another guy that
John Jewett's a freak. He just needs to be compared. He just needs a chance to be compared to the guys. So
no, 100%. But yeah, again, that's gonna be the most interesting one for the call-outs. I think, you know, and how Steve lets them roll out the call-outs and who he puts next to who. Because as I said, like, you put Angel and Ole in and amongst some of these guys that are slightly off, they're taking heads. You know what I mean? They're definitely taking heads. You know, but I suppose moving on to Classic. I mean, I'm gonna probably be the worst person in the world to say this, because people are gonna hate me for this. I'm not a Chris Bumstead fan. I never have been a Chris Bumstead fan. I don't like.
I think he's missing too many body parts. I think he, like, when you put someone, like, I was saying this to a friend of mine. If Peter Molnar had gotten the special invite, he would have walked. He would have walked it. Like, he's that good.
No, 100%. I think last year, Chris was very lucky in the sense that Breon had a horrible stomach,
Yeah.
They overcarved him completely, and his midsection was horrifically bad. And he looked pregnant in some of the shots. They rectified that this year. I have to say, Brian looks like hard as nails. What I don't like about the class is that it comes down to sort of like a two-man front-running show from the start. And they never seem to give guys in this division the call-outs they deserve. You know, like just putting them next to other people to see how they fare, in my opinion, would go a long way. Like for example, this year we've got a couple of names I'm going to name that for me are very impressive. Logan Franklin, who won the New York Pro, I think is a very, very good classic physique bodybuilder. He has some very good showy body parts. He comes in very conditioned. He has a good look. I'm going to go out and say as well, Wesley Vissers, who I watched turn pro at the Two Bros show. He has put the work in this year. His back is incredible. He's brought his legs up. His condition is insane. I hope he gets the kind of like the look next to a Chris Bumstead, because I think he has one of the most, if not the most classical look in that whole lineup. When he competed at the Two Bros,
he's like a big 70s bodybuilder, you know. It's like, as long as that's it, and he looks sick. Like
100%. When you see this guy in the flesh, okay, you will literally lose your mind, because it is like Arnold with a different head. It's incredible. Now, this is 2.5 years ago I'm talking about. The dude has put in work, and then
he's about 6
he's tall. Like, he's but he and you know what I like about him as well is he just has his own way of doing things, and he just markets himself his way, brands his thing, vintage genetics, vintage bodybuilding, and he is set in stone about making himself be the vintage bodybuilder of that class, and he personifies that better than anybody. So I would like to see him get that kind of chance to sort of bring, because look, let's face it, somebody who's that hell-bent and set on a classic look would be a fantastic role model and ambassador for the class. You know what I'm saying? Because he actually wants the best for bodybuilding in a classical way, and that's always been his mainstay. So I think he deserves definitely to call him. Mike Summerfield I really like, but I just think he's not ready yet to step into that kind of talk, because he has the structure, he has great presentation, he's just not there yet. But there's 3 guys I'm going to mention that for me are dark horses here. Brian Jones, Lord Jones as he's known on Instagram. This guy is huge, right? He is absolutely massive, and he can hit a side pec chest shot like Arnold used to do, and his upper pecs look like it's sitting on your kitchen table. He has the arms, he has the ham drop, he has a back that could beat anybody. Like, he is incredible, and he has a unique look. You know, he has purple dreads. He's very much in condition. Tall guy, again, he's very dangerous. Him, DeAndre Campbell.
Yeah.
And him and
out of Terrence in there, man. Out of Terrence in the top 6, 7 spot.
Yeah. Him and DeAndre Campbell and Logan Franklin, those 3 guys are extremely, like, although they're new, they're bringing something completely different to that lineup. I mean, I'm hoping those guys get the call out that they should. Ricky Moulton as well. He's another guy. He has a very very Brian-like body parts, great condition, full from the back. Back is like ridiculously thick, and like him and DeAndre, they just, there's nothing missing. So when there's nothing missing and everything flows as well as it does with these guys, you know, you're kind of looking, scratching your head, going, well, what more do they need to do? And in my opinion, what they need to do is just, first of all, obviously make themselves more known to be out there in the class, because that helps. I don't care what anybody says. But secondly, just to get the call-outs, man. And it really depends on how many times that they're going to rotate these guys around and around to see who, you know, who lands where.
I can't
You know what I
imagine
mean?
we'll do too many comparisons. And the whole reason behind that, I was just looking through all the lists, and it's like this is the biggest class in the show. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
imagine they'll actually put the time. They won't have the time to give all the comparisons. So I'd say they'll just call out the top guys, run them through, and then you'll have an idea. You'll have an idea very fast. So
Yeah, and that's where I felt that class has been the last couple of years. It's been very rushed, you know. Like they have them in the at the expo, you know. They're not on the main stage. They're not kind of exposed to the bigger lights, so to speak, and they're kind of like getting them on and getting them off again, you know. So from a judge's point of view, just like in bikini, sometimes you just pull out the bigger names. We'll have a look at them, and if anybody kind of catches your eye, great, we'll throw them in. But other than that, we're kind of looking at the usual suspects, which is very unfair to the people who really can deserve to get that shot on these guys, because there's some guys out there, like as I've mentioned already, who could, if they get a rough one as well. Like, I mean, he's another guy that's like extremely by himself. You think this guy's Mr. Classic Physique all day, you know what I mean? Just obviously his size, you know, he's just not the biggest guy on stage, like, what, 5'4", 5'5", something like that. Very short guy. And then if you find him a smaller guy, like say a Brian Jones, he just gets smothered. You know what I mean? Well, they proved I think the last year or two that, you know, a smaller dude in Classic, if he looks the part, like the guy who won the Europa, I can't remember his name now, I think he was Portuguese. He's two big, taller guys, one of them being Mike Summerfield in that show. And it just goes to show you that the judges, you know, they will take him. I mean, you can only just look at Shane. I mean, look at Shane Cullen. I mean, Shane has got an absolutely beautiful Classic physique. He's up against much bigger guys, but he holds his own because of presentation, because of detail, because of structure, because his tie-ins. And if you get a smaller guy like a Terence Ruffin who's built like that, they can win. It's just when the bigger guys also have the same like attributes as what you have and then some, then it's hard. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, a big tall guy with a tiny waist and massive wide shoulders and sweepy quads is always going to draw the eye of somebody and be like, who's this guy? You know what I mean?
100%. I'm just looking at this, and it's like my dark horse is probably gonna be Jonathan Hambrick. I would probably pick him to be my dark horse for the top 10. I mean, he's so tall. He's like 6'5", you know, not 6'5". He's like 6'3". Yeah. He's a big man, and he's not missing anything, and he's like 22 or 3. So, you know, I mean, he's
that's the thing as well, is about the lineup as well, is that you know, a lot of these guys are young, and it's kind of so exciting because you're thinking, wow, like if they're that young now, you know, how good are these guys going to be in 3 or 4 years with more of exposure on the Olympia stage? What exactly are they capable of? You know what I'm saying? But I see kind of I see a 2-man show first and second. I don't think anybody as if is going to be able to knock the champ off the pedestal just yet. But because you don't have a Steve Lawrence there this year, you don't have a Breon, you don't have or Keon Pearson, should I say? You don't have a George Peterson. You're automatically taking it. I don't think Arash Rabar is doing it as well. Yeah. So you're taking like pretty much the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and arguably 6th guys that were like coming, you know, behind Chris and Breon out of the game, which opens up the door for someone else to step in and become the 3rd contender. You know what I mean? And if that's the case, we could see potentially somebody like a Wesley Vissers or a, you know, like a Logan Franklin or a Brian Jones, you know, it cement themselves as the top 3 guy, you know, and an heir apparent. But it's such big class, and it produces so many good physiques every year that it's very difficult for anybody to have a real legacy in this class, because I can't see anybody going on a streak of multiple Olympia, because there's so many gifted guys going into this class and just being like another wow factor. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's very tough. But yeah, I see a 2-man show, and then I see
in men's physique, man, like, no, I agree with you totally, because it's like, I'm even just like, even with Chris, it's like, even if he pulls off a second win, there's going to be somebody who's going to come up in a year or next year who's finally gotten that maturity where he's ready and he's more complete. I think Chris is missing a few things.
Yeah.
But I do think he'll win it. I think he'll somehow pull it off. I think you have to be off to lose the title. Like, when you're the champion, you're always going to have that little bit of extra, you know, you have to be really off to lose. So that'll play in his favor, because he won't be off. He won't be off.
Yeah. No, 100%, 100%. Now, quickly kind of looking over Men's Physique, man, I know a couple of the guys. I wouldn't be the biggest Men's Physique follower, but what I will say is that Raymond from last year that won, he's an incredible Mr. Men's Physique. I seen some pictures of Andre Ferguson, and he looks like death. And when he looks like death, like his condition is just insane. My dark horse for this class is going to be the new guy, Andre Lincoln, the Romanian.
Okay.
He's Hani Rambod's boy. Hani's been training.
That's your man who he's the social media guy, isn't it? Like, are we talking about the same guy? Yeah.
Yes. Good looking guy. Really, like, incredible physique. I think this is his debut. I'm pretty sure this is his debut. This guy, I think he could be a future Mr. Olympia. He has genetics that, I mean, his bicep tie-ins are just insane. I mean, he is, this guy is incredible, man. And, like, you know, you can't knock Hani again. People knock Hani. They don't give him the credit, man. I mean, Hani got Jeremy Buendia. What was it? 5, 6 Men's Physique Olympias.
He was 4,
you know,
wasn't he? Won 4, and then he tried to come back or something.
Yeah, I mean, like, Hani knows his shit. Like, so he, you know, working with this guy, he is bringing his A game, and he's a good looking guy. And in Men's Physique, I don't care what anybody says, that counts for a lot, you know, because it is that kind of a modelly looking category, albeit that the guys are incredible physiques. I definitely see it being a top 5 of him, Raymond, Brandon Hendrickson, Andre Ferguson, and Jeremy Potvin. Potvin.
Ryan Terry could be in there as well. I would have Ryan Terry up there.
Yeah, you know why I'm saying I'm not putting Ryan in there is because Ryan's lost a lot of size. Okay. And I don't know whether he's done these size loss intentionally or it's because his missus had a baby this year and he just started prep late. But he's never been the biggest guy. And the problem with Men's Physique is that the guys are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, you know, okay, Buendia did it, but Buendia was thick for his size, you know. Potvin is thick for his size. Ryan looks too undersized to compete with some of the bigger guys in these shots, especially Edmonds, Ferguson, and Henriksen. When they turn around to the back, their shots are insane. Like, you know, I would kill for one of those backs. They're dense and thick. It rivals most bodybuilders that we know. You know what I mean? And then some. So, you know, I just think Ryan hasn't done enough in the terms of the size department yet to cement himself back to where he used to be, which is unfortunate because I've trained with Ryan in Manchester and stuff, and I've met him a lot of times, and he is a top guy, and he has fantastic physique. But again, like when it comes to this caliber, I think it's just short. He's just shortchanged himself a little bit in that department. If he could bring his size game back up a little bit, but keep those midsection proportions, he would be a contender for sure because he has a beautiful physique. It's just he needs the size. It's as simple as that. Yeah.
Now with women's figure, I'm gonna go on a whim, and I'm just gonna say Shanique Grant is definitely gonna win it again. Like, I think she's just. I mean, working with John Meadows is probably a smart move. Like, she's just a genetic anomaly. Like, she could do women's bodybuilding with like 5 kilos more tissue, you know? Like, she has that much, you know.
Yeah.
And then I'm just trying to think. It's like, Who would be second? I mean, I wouldn't follow too much of the class. I mean, Brittany, I think.
My dark horse for this is Jordan Peters' girl, Rhea Gale. She won the Europa in Spain. She beat oh my God, was it Brittany Campbell? She beat somebody who had previously placed third at the O, an American girl.
Was it Brittany Watts? That would be the only one I have here. Yeah.
She beat somebody of a very good caliber, and she beat them well. It's her debut. Again, you've got to pay your dues at the O, but she has physique that can contend with those two girls, with Watts and Gillen. Definitely in the long run. Maybe this year, but certainly enough to impose herself going forward that she's like made a name for herself now. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look, going into Olympias like this, it's about momentum. You know what I mean? And if you have momentum carried forward from winning a big show like the Europa to this, it's going to mean a lot to her and to the judges because they know who she is now.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're not going to have her in a bad call out. She's going to be in a good call out. You know what I'm saying? So she's in a good call out. That stands well to her. If she can pick apart some of these girls, then, you know, kudos to her. If she comes top 3 in this, then she knows it's on. You know, and there's nobody more meticulous about training on the planet than there is Jordan Peters. You know, so you can be guaranteed that Jordan has put the work in for her to bring up whatever she needs to bring up in order to improve to match with these girls. You know.
Now, so basically, it'll be what we think. We'll just do the top 5 for this because I honestly wouldn't know too much of the competitors. So
yeah, I would be going here.
Sydney Gillen won.
Yeah, Sydney Gillen and Victoria Watts and Rhea Gale.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Brittany Campbell. Yeah, and then it's a flip flop I think between Nadia Wyatt and what's that other girl's name? I don't think she's American. I can't remember her name now, but it'll come to me. But I think you're kind of going to see those names popping in and around, you know, the top 5 mark. And the good thing about Figure is that they're not afraid to change the guard there either.
No.
You know, we've seen it before. You know, they're not afraid to change it up. You know, they're not afraid to flip-flop the title each year, which is good, man, because it makes the contestant, like the show as a you know, from a contestant or you know, from our spectators' point of view, interesting. You know, like nobody wants to see the same reoccurring champ every year, like, you know, with Oksana Gorishina in fitness and things like that. You know, if it's the same story every year, it just gets boring. You know what I mean? So I figure they've actually managed to be decent that way, like that. If somebody's better, then they're winning. You know what I mean? And that's how it should be. You know.
No, agreed. With women's physique, do you think it'll be another run-in for Shanique Grant? Do you think she's just too good?
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's working with John Meadows now.
Yeah.
Not diet-wise. She's working with him training-wise.
Yeah.
And John said in a recent interview there that he had never seen anybody with genetics like this girl. And I think everybody on the planet knows how good this girl's genetics are. I mean, they are incredible genetics. And, you know, I watch a lot of her videos and she trains. It just seems to be that when she turns up and she puts her head down and she starts to train, anything she does turns to muscle. And effortless as well, you know. She doesn't have to stress herself. She doesn't have to put herself in an awkward position to come in, bang on the money. And when you have a champion like that has genetics like that can literally just be the best version of themselves every time effortlessly. I'm not saying she doesn't put in the effort. Of course she puts in the effort. She's a Miss Olympia. But she just makes it so effortless to look at that it's very hard to look past her. I mean, the other girls there, like, you know, Coelho, Villegas, Sarah Villegas, you know, Brittany Watts. I mean, there's some very good physiques in that class, but she's just too eye-popping. You know what I mean? She is just immaculate. There's guys looking at her back double and going, I want that back double. You know what I mean? Like, her shoulders are, I mean, she's incredible, man. She's just a marvel to look at. So I don't see anybody touching her for as many Olympias as she wants. That's my personal opinion. I think she could go on.
She'll end up going into women's.
What?
She'll go up into women's bodybuilding now. That'll be in the Olympia.
Well, now that it's back, who's to say that she wouldn't?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now that women's bodybuilding is back for this year, who's to say? It really depends, I think, in that category, like with the wellness category, how they're going to judge the class. Because there was a time when women's physique was a big class, and then they streamlined the class.
Yeah.
Because it went more bodybuilding, you know? And now they have this kind of mixed hybrid between bodybuilding and figure, and they've got it right. They still have to kind of figure out with bodybuilding for women how big they want them to be, because nobody wants to see, for them to be seeing women who just look absolutely astronomically too big for the stage, and they're going to get complaints from people saying, oh, that's ridiculous, because that's what happened before. You know what I mean? They're like, oh no, that's disgusting, a woman shouldn't look like that, blah blah blah. Regardless of whether it's her prerogative to look like that or not, they just didn't like the look, so fair play to Jake Wood for bringing back women's bodybuilding, because there was no point in having it in the Wings of Strength show and keeping these girls outside of the Olympia. The Olympia is where they deserve to be. You know what I mean? But no, I think it comes.
Kyle's coming back, man. I mean, do you think she could win it, or do you think it'd be she's been off the stage for too long?
I've not seen any women's bodybuilding myself to comment on it. I would like to see her come back and win her 10th Olympia, but we're only going to know who the new players are when we see the show live. You know what I'm saying? But lastly, women's bikini. My pick for this show is the Brazilian girl, Attila Santos. She won a show this year, and it's a very difficult class to judge. So from a guy's perspective, you're thinking, how the hell did they manage to do this? Yeah. But when you see a girl very well put together in bikini, and you think to yourself, wow, this girl, she has it all. You know what I'm saying? And for me, this girl personifies what bikini should be about. She has a beautiful athletic physique. She's not overly endowed in the glute section. She's not overly dieted. She looks healthy. She looks fresh. She's got a pretty face, good shoulders. She just looks great, and she looks better than some of the other girls like Janet Leung and Angelica Teixeira and, Ashley Kalswater, those girls. I mean, they look good, but this girl just seems to just have something different. Now, I would say her, and I would say Laura Lee Chapados. She works with the Golden Chaplets. It's basically the grinder for women's bikinis, and I mean grinders, and he just pumps out bikini champions all over the place. I mean, this guy he's probably the best bikini prep coach in the world. He's incredible. And she is, I think she's going out at the moment with Sean Roden. I think so, because I've seen a lot of videos of her and him together, and he's been training her and stuff like that. So she's had the supervision of a personal training eye and perspective from Mr. O, keeping her on board. And she put up some progress pictures yesterday and the day before, and I was extremely impressed with how she looked. I thought, there's literally not a thing on this girl right now that needs to be changed. She could be the future of this sport as well. So for me, I think you're looking at pretty much the same old faces as last year. Cassini's going to be in there. Kalswater's going to be in there. Teixeira's going to be in there. But for me, I think Attila, this girl, goes to run for her money. And I like Laura Lee as well, definitely.
Well, look, my man, thanks for coming on and doing this rundown with me. It's interesting because if I'd done it myself, I just felt it wouldn't have the same. You need to have the different viewpoints to make a good take on the Olympia, and I think that's what matters at the end of the day. Is you know, being able to play devil's advocate and, you know, put
Yeah.
forward the opinions. I mean, it's up in the air. That's the thing. I mean, it's such an unpredictable year. It's like anything could happen. But
Yeah.
with the pay-per-view, though,
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good show to watch this time around. We don't have to watch a shitty webcast. That being said, it could be a
Yeah.
shitty paid webcast. We just don't know yet. So
Exactly. We're all kind of hoping that they actually just get guys who are cameramen who don't keep changing the angles all the fucking time. And when it's just like, you know, in the comparisons, they just keep the camera like straight on.
Yeah.
Instead of like zooming around the back and zooming around here. We don't need to see that. Like, you know what I mean? If you got 6 guys in the first call out, just keep the camera front and center. That's all we need to see. You know what I mean?
That's it. But look, at the end of the day, like, I think the same champions are going to be the same guys. So probably stay in the top 6. You might get an upset here or there, but
Yeah.
look, it's very rare that a rookie comes in and makes that kind of change, you know. But it'll be interesting, man. But look, I got to go and get some food in, but I will absolutely.
Yeah, me too, man.
I'll give you a shout when it's on. Upload it. I'll have it up for you tomorrow. And as you said with Southside, like,
Cool.
give me a shout but again, if you want to come to the gym and break, I'm allowed to bring people with me. Because again, it's a PT gym, so it's like,
Cool.
I'm allowed to bring people with me. So down the line, once I start, look, touch wood, if I end up working there, we'll hit it up. It's a proper hardcore gym. So, but look, thanks for coming on. And for anyone who's listening for coaching or any inquiries, where can they find you?
Just hit me up on Instagram, Brown Panda. If you want to just look me up, I can send guys out or girls out, whomever it is, you know, consultation, questionnaire, have a chat, see how people get on with myself. You know, I'm kind of very much like, I won't just take people on because somebody's just asked me straight off the bat, like, you know, can you coach me? There needs to be, for me, a bit of vetting. You know, like to find out a little bit more about the person, see how serious they are, see if we'll connect and click together. Because you need to have a good working relationship with your client in order for them to be the best version of themselves. You know what I'm saying? So if people get along with me and I get along with them, we can really do some good things together. But if people kind of, you know, from the start have an attitude with you and you're not really feeling it, then it's just, I'm not going to waste your time. And I'm not looking to let you waste mine either. So you know that yourself. So yeah, if people want to hit me up on Instagram, the Brown Panda, and we can have a chat. And then absolutely no problem. I appreciate that, man.
Deadly. Well, look, that is episode 30 of the podcast done, the special wrap up. And you know what I'll do? Once the Olympia is done, because we did the preview, once it's done, we'll do a wrap up. Because like it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see the difference. Like who was right, who was wrong. But agreed, Phil will probably win it.
Yeah.
Phil will probably win it. It'll be the same kind of, like, but imagine he didn't win it. That's the thing. Like, imagine he didn't. Like, that's always the possibility. So, you know.
Yeah.
But look, man, I'll let you go.
Definitely.
And I'll give you a shout when it's up.
Okay,